what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Boleros. I'm here with Cab and Maui. What's up guys?
Hey, A
Hello.
ng A.
Ano ba yan, Gab?
Oh, yung para maka-reach out naman tayo sa Gen Z, sa Gen Z audience.
Reach out to a new
Hey.
market. Anyway, we're back. We're back with another episode of Lock, Maybe or Not. But today we're going to talk about the UST Growling Tigers, one of our sleeper picks, I would say, to make it to the Final Four. We talked about the UST Growling Tigers as a sleeper pick in a recent collab episode with Navs and Nico. If you haven't seen that episode, check that out over at our channel. We did a live stream. Actually, ano yun multicast live stream. No? So, it's also available at Navs and Nico's channel if you want to check that out. Shout out to Navs and Nico, by the way, for having us over. Before we talk about Lock Maybe or Now, where we finalize the 16-man roster of the UST Growling Tigers for season 87, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
So this episode is brought to you by, once again, Cotton Club Underwear and NYC Underwear. Cotton Club, I love it here. Hey! Hindi na ako titigil nun, pare. Hindi ako titigil hanggang magsando si Sam sa si Maui on one episode until the Sando gang has finally been completed. Hey!
Mangyayari din yan. Mangyayari din yan.
Mangyayari yan. Abangan nyo, guys. Abangan nyo. Pag tayo, mga 10,000 subscribers. tingnan natin. Okay. Anyway, moving on. So we're going to talk about the UST Growling Tigers roster. Let me just show you some of the players that we have listed here. I think this is around 21 players. If you haven't seen our previous Lock Maybe or Not episodes, we just basically discuss if a player is a lock, a maybe, or a na to make it to the 16-man roster for season 87. Meron kaming mga players na maybe we missed or maybe we skipped probably because hindi siya eligible for season 87. Meron din kami mga players dito na hindi kami sure kung nandito pa sila because we haven't seen them yet or heard from them in a long time. So just let us know, comment down below kung meron kaming na-miss or may mali dito sa list namin. But let's get started and let's talk about the star of the team. Sure lock 100%. Nick Cabanero and Christian Manaytay, the two stars of the team from last season. I know these guys are sure locks, but anything you have to say for these two guys? Gab.
Nick Cabanero, I think, is primed for a mythical 5-year. I think, listen, not every...
kahit may ibang guards na star guards na papasok.
Yeah. Here's my thing. The defense is not all going to be focused on Nick Cabanero because it's not going to be the Nick Cabanero show anymore. So he's going to play off of other players now. It's not gonna be all Nick Cabanero isolations on the wing, Nick Cabanero post-ups, Nick Cabanero isolation from the top. It's not gonna be that. That's how he's played for the past 2 seasons. I don't think it's gonna be like that. We've seen in Phil Oil, he will take his shots when in the flow of the offense. Off passes from Fortsy. Off ball actions, off ball screens that will get him free. Of passes from Paranada or Fortsy, and he'll just be a corner shooter at times. So it's now the offensive package for Nick Cabanero is now diversified, very different just from being an isolation scorer, a pick and roll player for the past 2 or 3 seasons already. So I like his chances. I think he's gonna be a more efficient player in season 87, and I think a mythical 5, depending on UST's record. I mean, among the 3 of us, yung medyo mixed pa rin yung ating opinion sa UST. Si Maui thinks UST will have a chance to make it the Final Four. I'm not so sure. I think I've mentioned before, I've favored the likes of Adamson and
Budol ba ulit?
Oh.
Budol ba ulit? Ang tanong.
Baka mabudol na naman si Maui. But yeah, I like Nick Cabanero's chances. If they make it to the Final Four, he'll probably battle even for MVP or medyo malayo yung MVP in my opinion. But for a mythical 5 slot, I think it's in the books. For Christian Manaytay, locked in for me. We've loved this guy since season 86. Another guy who came from LaSalle and has made a career out of himself just by transferring. So even though he comes off the bench now, I still think he's gonna be that number one option of that UST bench, despite having Kyle Paranada there with him off the bench. I still think they're gonna run a lot of plays for Christian Manaytay. Maui.
Yeah. Ako, I think si Manaytay will play a similar role to last season. He'll still get yung touches niya kasi he'll probably be the sixth man, as Gab mentioned. As far as si Nick Cabanero, I'm very excited to see what's gonna happen because this is finally the year that everyone expects them to compete, di ba? This is, I think, year number 4. Correct me if I'm wrong. For Nick Cabanero, he has to have a breakout year if he wants to get to play abroad. I know there have been rumors during previous seasons. I think this is the season that he has to take that step. UST will be a team that will be scouted if they win more games. He will be more scouted. He will have more weapons around him. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares on both ends of the floor. This will be his test if he can play abroad, which I think he is suited to play abroad. There have been a lot of rumors before. KBL, I think one of the Twitter accounts that scouts players has been scouting Cabanera the past few years. This is his chance to play abroad, and in fairness to him, 'di ba? He probably could have tried to go pro earlier, but he decided to stay. And this will be the perfect chance. This is for the USD community. And I'm excited to see him play with a point guard na finally decent point guard, as they say, 'di ba? Fortsy Paranada and Paranada will be a good 1-2 punch for him.
I think Fortsy and Paranada are more than decent point guards. Fortsy is a mythical
Bakit?
point
Hindi ba
guard.
decent si Manalang? Kayo naman?
Decent. Pwede. Yun ang decent para sa akin. I mean, I'm excited, but yeah, tama ka, Maui. I'm excited for Cabanero to finally play with fellow stars. You mentioned it. There were a lot of rumors about Cabanero potentially leaving because there were offers abroad. So I think that's a shout out to Nick Cabanero, no. Kudos to Nick Cabanero for being patient enough and staying. Ilang seasons din siyang nagtiyaga sa UST na bottom dwellers sila. So he really waited for this opportunity. Hopefully it pays out. It pans out. Sorry, it pans out. Hopefully they stay healthy. Last year they also had like problems with their FSA. We'll talk more about the FSA later. Basically non-existent FSA. So at least ngayon they have 2 options supposedly for the FSA, but we'll talk more about that later.
By the way,
Regarding Christian
wait lang, Sam. By the way, regarding Cabanero, we want you on the show. I think he agreed
Shout
na
out.
before to shout out to him. I think he
Oo nga.
agreed to go on the show before, but I don't know, maybe nag-change ang policy ng UST, especially when they were sponsored by the San Miguel group. So hopefully we still get you on the show one day or another.
Nick
Nick,
Cabanero,
come
come to the show.
on. Come on.
Come on
Suma,
down.
pang may subscribers tayo from UST. Come on, man. Just reach out to Nick. Sabi mo,
Shout out
we're
naman.
nice guys. We don't bite.
Oo nga. Just one last thing on Christian Manaytay. I think for me, you said it, Gab. We love this guy. We've been talking about him all the time in previous seasons. One thing I want to see from him, a better 3-point shot. If he can extend his range to the 3, that would take his game to the next level and prepare him for the pros. So yun lang yung hinahanap ko sa kanya. Anyway, moving on. We have 2 locks. Gab, you mentioned 2 players, and Maui, you mentioned 2 players that are very important for UST this coming season. Probably the most hype recruits of UST from the previous season. They had to do the residency because transferee sila. It's Kyle Paranada and Fortsy Paranada, no, coming from UE and Ateneo. I think these guys are both locks. What are we expecting from these 2 guys? And just to add to that, we've seen both play in Phil Oil. Anong nakita nyo doon? Like, how were they so far in their initial performance for UST? Let's start with you, Maui.
Well, I would say to a certain degree disappointing, both of them, 'di ba? we expected Fortsy to star alongside
True.
Cabanero, but it looks like he's starting to get his groove. It's a different story for Paranada. I didn't see him really get into a groove the whole Phil Oil. But I'm excited for both of them. Diba? These two people are proven commodities in the UAAP. Diba? Maybe it just takes time for them to play in a new system. Fortsky is probably is still gonna be a star, I think, in the UAAP. He's a mythical team member. He's been a star since high school. Maybe once he gets his head fully into basketball, diba? All the distractions out, and finally when the UAAP starts, maybe that's when he starts balling like he used to. I'm excited, Kifortsky. This is his second chance. Hopefully he makes the most out of it. This is a guard that is very that has a potential to play in foreign leagues, I think, abroad. He has very good size, and yung game niya, I think, will really translate to the pros. Let's see how he plays. Gab.
Yeah, I agree. I think for most of Phil Oil, where we saw them primarily, both have struggled, especially with turnovers. I think UST has very high turnover counts in all of their games, and it's not a surprise that Fortsky and Kyle Paranada are, I think, front runners in terms of turnovers for UST. For Fortsky, I'm not as worried. I do think he tends to lay back sometimes during games. But from what I've seen, and I've watched them both live, I've watched UST live. Fortsky has the trust of Coach Pido. I mean, he calls about whenever things are going awry on the court. Coach Pido looks to Fortsky to settle things down, and I've said it. Whenever Fortsky's there, no press is gonna work against UST. He's just a one-man press break all by himself. He's just so calm, so just such a smart player. For Paranada, I think there's just some adjustments and a bit of a cold streak also. We all know this guy can score. I mean, that's his primary thing, right? In UE, he was the scoring guard and he can score in bunches. I do think we'll see a game where he'll score 20 plus points during season 87. I won't be surprised. He's part of that bench unit along with Christian Manaytay. It will be interesting to me if how he plays when he has to defer to another player, because si Marita is the proven commodity. He's the guy who's gonna who's the play is gonna be run for in that second unit. So it will be interesting. He also has a Leland Esto that can also play make. So the ball is not gonna be in his hands all the time. Unlike when he was in UE, diba? The offense just ran through Kyle Paranada all the time when he was on the court. This is going to be a very different role for him. But again, man, he's a proven scorer. I do think he'll put up points in bunches. He will struggle. I do think he will. He's small. He's not playing the same role that he was in UE. So I think he will. But both guys can be trusted. They're gonna lock down that point guard position. I do think. I don't think if there's a third string point guard, maybe we'll talk about him later. Spare minutes lang bibigay sa kanya, but it's mostly these two guys, and they're both locks, obviously.
Obviously. That's a good point, Gab, no? You're talking about ni Cabanero supposedly being excited for this coming season kasi hindi na siya yung magiging main focal point ng team. May other options na or may other stars na natutulong sa kanya. And I think like what you said, si Kyle Paranada had a sort of a similar situation with UE where he was like the main guy, the main ball handler for UE, but this time he's going to play with a guy like Nick Cabanero, a guy like Fortsy Padricao. So definitely the expectations are very high for Nick Cabanero, for Kyle Paranada, and for Fortsy. And it was a bit, I agree with what you guys said, it was a bit disappointing seeing them sa Phil Oil, but once they start to figure things out, I think it would be a lot easier for a guy like Nick Cabanero or Kyle Paranada to get into the flow of the game, lalo na't may other options, no? Hindi na lahat ng pressure nasa kanila, or yung defense hindi na solely focused on stopping them to stop UST. Sige, moving on, you mentioned the other guy that I wanted to talk about. Phil Am recruit. guy that I think you and Maui really, really loved sa Phil Oil. I think you guys picked him as a breakout player, if I'm not mistaken.
Under the radar, Sam.
Under the
Under
radar
the radar.
player pala.
He
Obviously,
was
you guys
supposedly
know.
my pick, pero si Maui na una. At
Naunahan ka ni Maui, di ba?
pinili
Naunahan
na
ka ni
niya eh.
Maui. So I'm talking about Leland Esto, and I know you guys are gonna have him as a lock for this pick. Gab, talk more about Leland Esto and what you saw from Phil Oil.
Just a guy who can, another guy who can handle the ball and make plays for himself and for others. I still struggled with a bunch of turnovers in Phil Oil. Adjusting to the pace, the physicality of the UAAP game, I think that's what happened to him. But this guy is another one who can score points in bunches. He can shoot, can run pick and roll, can get to the basket, can run the floor pretty damn well. So I think he's a lock for me. He's definitely in the rotation from the games I've seen in UST. I think his spot in the rotation is very secure. I don't think any of the other players we'll be talking about here in this lock maybe or now will be able to supplant him because he has a more refined skill set. He's also an older player already. So yung maturity ng game niya compared to the likes of let's just say si Ashen Andrews is way above. Dahil nga, I think he's had more experience playing college basketball si Leland Esto, yung coming from the US. So, yeah, he's a lock for me. Definitely, I'm excited to see how he plays. He's with Paranada and with Fortsy. He's also a second unit guy. So, I'm excited. This UST team, mukhang nagbago na yung style ni Pedro. Hindi na wings ang ina-accumulate niya. Guards na. Yung a lot of two guards and point guards na yung nasa lineup na ngayon ng UST. Maui.
Yeah, actually very excited for Leland Esto. I think si Gab mentioned most. I would categorize him as a guard wing for UST. This is the type of player that Pidorencio wants. Somebody who can shoot, somebody who can slash, and somebody who can drive to the basket. Diba? We've seen this in the past. He's had a ton of wing players thrive in his system. And I think si Leland Esto is that under the radar, as we picked before, under the radar guy that could really shine in this offense and style of play. He could probably maybe surprise us and maybe be the second or third top scorer for UST this coming season. I love how this guy plays. I'm excited to see how he adjusts sa gameplay here in the Philippines. And there's a reason why both me and Gab wanted to name this guy as an underrated player coming into season 87. We believe that he will thrive, and I think that that's something to watch out for. I think very important yung three players that we pick, si Estacio, Padrigao, and Paranada. They will probably dictate where UST will end up. Are they for real? Will they make the Final Four? I think these three players will be very key for UST this coming season. Aside from Nick Cabanero, a proven commodity in the UST system, diba? These three guys will dictate the ceiling of and probably we'll discuss later the FSA slot. That would probably determine where UST will end up in the end, I think, in my opinion.
Okay. Leland Esto, by the way, I think 2 years of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken. Again, you guys were very high on him, so pretty much lock na yan. Guaranteed, Leland Esto. Moving on, let's talk about some of the holdovers siguro from the previous UST team. This is obviously like a very different looking UST team, but there are some guys potentially coming back that have played in the Phil Oil, and I'm curious to know kung locks na ba sila para sa inyo. I'm talking about guys like Angelo Crisostomo, their big man, si Crisostomo. Migs Pangilinan has been there for the past 3 years, past 3 seasons. And another big man, Eco Laure, big boy Eco Laure, played for UST last season. These three guys, are these guys, obviously they played a lot last season. Lalo na si Crisostomo and si Laure, they didn't have an FSA, so they played I would say heavy minutes. Now that they do have an FSA, now that they have a new and improved team, are these three guys a lock for you? Maui, let's start with you.
Sorry, you mentioned Laure, Crisostomo, and Pangilinan, right?
Pangilinan, yes.
Yeah. I think I think yung very, very certain ako na lock is Crisostomo and Pangilinan. Kasi they bring a skill set that is needed for UST, di ba? Crisostomo brings that power forward slot, potentially sliding in with the FSA. He's very athletic. I really like what I've seen sa preseason. I like the ceiling of this guy. If this guy can transition to the wing, then maybe he could be a very good pro player, di ba? He's very long, he's very athletic. Si Pangilinan naman, as we've seen during the past few seasons, what he does is shoot from the outside. Now that could be bad sometimes it could also be good. So we see games
Minsan
where he's
trigger
probably
happy no?
we see games where we've seen games where he's been probably 2 of 11. We've seen games where he has 5 threes. So I think what he has to establish is consistency if he wants to get more playing time, diba? Right now it's different. A lot of players will need touches. A lot of players will be shooting the basketball. During previous years, he could launch 10 3-pointers in a game. Now he'd probably launch 6 3-pointers. He probably has to hit at least 2 to 3 a game. But he has a role. I think that's what's been established. I think this guy will make the roster no matter what. Si Echo Laure, maybe because they lack big man, di ba? They have a ton of guards, a couple of wings, but no big men. So maybe he could make that roster. Maybe that guy who could be that enforcer, that player who would probably pick a few unsportsmanlike fouls throughout the season, di ba? That could be his role. Diba, you have
Mahina, is that you?
you have to have that player naman diba? That enforcer player, and maybe his body type and his physicality could set him apart and he could make the lineup. He'd probably make the lineup. There's a reason why he stayed, diba? The other players, the Durendes brothers, I think transferred, he stayed. I think he has a role probably as a third string center.
So maybe siya sa'yo. Maybe ba si Laure sa'yo,
Yeah.
Maui?
I think at this time,
Okay.
maybe.
Gap. So 2 locks, 1 maybe.
I agree with Maui. I have locks, Crisostomo, and Pangilinan. I think Maui made a good point already for Mix Pangilinan. He has a role. He's supposedly a shooter, but from most of the games I've watched Mix Pangilinan, he hasn't been a shooter. So, but yeah, he has a role, and I hope he knocks down threes on a consistent basis. I agree with Maui. 2 to 3 threes per game. I think it's a minimum dapat for Mix Pangilinan because he's gonna have a ton of open looks. With the amount of playmakers and guards that can drive and kick the ball, he will not have let's just say he's gonna have a ton of a surplus of open looks. So he has to hit them. All right. So that's his advantage actually among all the other wings that are here in this lineup. So I do think he's a lock to Mix Pangilinan. Plus he's a vet. So I do think Pidol loves this guy. He's been through it. Si Crisostomo, I do like also. I don't know if you noticed, pero most of their games, he's been the number one defender on guys like KQ, Jake Figueroa,
Haba
BJ
kasi
Pre.
niya no?
Oh yeah, he's long, he's athletic, he can move his feet, he's very quick. So yeah, I think he's a lock. Echo Laure, he's a maybe for me. I would actually lean to if you're looking for a guy just to give up fouls, why not go with a guy who has more length? And I think we'll talk about him
We'll
later.
talk more about him later. Okay,
Yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
he may be a bit raw. We'll talk about him later. But I think if you're choosing between him and Echo Laure, I'd go with him. So Echo Laure is a maybe for me.
Okay, so actually that finalizes it, 'di ba? Kasi may dalawa ng maybe si Laure, dalawa ng lock si Crisostomo and si Pangilinan. I agree with Crisostomo and Pangilinan being locks. I like Crisostomo's athleticism. Actually, I feel like he's a good fit for UST also. For Echo Laure, I'm putting him as a lock. Pero obviously maybe na siya, 'di ba? But I'm putting him as a lock. Alam mo bakit?
Lock!
Oh, lock. Kasi yung mga laure sa UST, swerte yan. Or they owe the laures. 'Di ba? May mga laure na pumuntang
Pangbayad kay
volleyball, 'di ba?
Laure.
So, oo, exactly, 'di
Saka
ba?
sa
So,
ate.
they owe the laures a favor. So, I'm putting Echo Laure as a lock here. There has to be a laure in UST. So, yun. But anyway, he's obviously a maybe. So, we'll talk more about him later and compare him with the other guy that Gab was talking about. But before we talk about that, by the way, Echo Laure slimmed down. To be fair kay Echo Laure, I think he slimmed down. And kung interested din kayo mag-slim down, let's talk about our second sponsor for today, Gab.
Grabe naman yung transition na yan, Sammy. Galing. This episode is also brought to you by Hype 24/7 Fitness. Feel the hype. So, sabi ka ni Sammy, no? So, mag-slim down na tayo, guys. Especially sa ating mga millennials. We're now in our 30s. Kailangan na watch our fitness, di ba? Age reveal na. Mga 30 na kami ni Sammy at ni Maui. Hindi na pwede
maganda yung gym. Maganda yung gym, ah. I was there yesterday. Kasi I was in Robinson's Magnolia. I wanted to see na rin yung what was the hype about on the hype gym, sabi ni Gab, di ba? So I went to hype gym yesterday. I really like it. Yung equipment, everything is fairly new. It's very spacious. Check it out, guys. Robinson's Magnolia and Commonwealth. Hype.
Congressional.
Yeah. Pero tama si Maui, maganda yung gym. Pumunta na rin ako with my wife. So kita-kita dun sa Hype Fit 24/7 Fitness Gym, no. So Magnolia and Congressional. Okay, moving on. So we've talked about 8 players so far. Just to recap, 7 have been locks and then we do have 1 maybe. So let's talk about the other players for lock maybe or na. Okay, moving on. Sige, pag-usapan na natin yung FSA. We do have 2 FSAs. Si Tungkara and si Peter Osang. Sinong lock nyo and sinong na? But siguro, before we talk about that, I think there are rumors na mukhang may may sure FSA na sila, si Tungkara. But, Maui, are you happy with that? If totoo nga na si Tungkara na talaga yung magiging FSA nila, do you prefer Tungkara over Osang?
Yeah, actually both of them look pretty good in the off season. I think both of them really gave it their all to fight for that FSA slot. Pero I think from the beginning, if you watch our previous episodes, si Tongkara is the one that I like with UST just because he's more mobile. I think yung chemistry niya with Padligao also and Paranada, I really like. I think he's shorter than Osang, but yung chemistry is what I like a lot. But both of them really played their hearts out for the role. It's just that maybe they prefer si Tongkara. But if you look at yung whole preseason ng UST, both of them are putting up big numbers. So it's a bit surprising that this early that it looks like they already picked, di ba? Kasi si Peter Osang is already playing, I think, for another team in another league, if I'm not mistaken. Gab,
Agree.
Before you give your...
go.
Okay. Nagbigay ka na ng pick. But I was gonna ask, ano yung case for Peter Osang? If you were to make a case for Osang.
I can't see. They're pretty similar players sa amin. Siguro yung only case ko kay Osang, kasi baka lumipat siya sa ibang school. Maybe that's it.
Mas mahaba siya ng onti.
It's overrated. They're halos the same lang sila sa amin if you see them up close. Siguro, I think si Tongkara is measured at 6'7". Osang, I think it's around 6'8". 6'8" and a half. So, very minimal difference, I think. Tongkara has a better mid-range touch. I've seen him shoot the ball from mid-range and extended mid-range. Also has better hands.
Maganda touch.
And
yeah,
has better hands and he can catch passes from Fortsy. And that's saying something because Fortsy throws some pretty difficult passes, diba? Whether it's high lobs or those drop passes those no-look drop passes that come out of nowhere. So I do like si Tongkara more. I can't really make a case for Peter Osang. Talagang mas mas maganda talaga yung nilaro ni Tongkara nung buong preseason eh. Kumbaga yun yung tryouts nilang dalawa eh. At mas maganda talaga yung pinakita ni Tongkara. Peter Osang, let's see. Let's see for next season, man. But I still think si Tongkara is the right choice. Despite being a bit undersized, I think he can play and put up with bigger FSAs.
Okay, so lock for Tongkara. So Peter Osang is Ana, obviously is cut. Moving on, Gab, I want to talk about one of the guys that you were excited about then for UST. You liked his game when you saw him. Prized rookie of UST, I would say, Amiel Asido. Lock maybe or not.
Oh, he's a
Tell
lock.
us what you think about Asido.
Is he? He's a lock. I do love his 3-point shooting stroke, and I think that's gonna be his primary role for this upcoming season. He's gonna have a lot of open looks from three, and he can hit him. I don't think he's gonna play make a lot, not with the teammates that he has. No, I think he can play power forward at times, but he'll mostly play as a wing player. He's not that athletic. That's another thing that's going against him. But I think his game is a lot more polished than I'd say a guy like Ashen Andrews. Although Ashen Andrews is a ton more athletic than him, he's bigger than a Jeremy Robinson. I think he's bigger than Migs Pangilinan. Although si Migs is the more proven shooter slash commodity. But I think you as the season will go on, he'll surpass and eat the minutes out of Migs Pangilinan. So yeah, I think he's a lock. I mean, he was one of their prize recruits for this off season. I do think Coach Pido will love him. He's a smarter player. He uses his smarts. Yun ang gusto ko sa kanya. Dahil nga hindi siya athletic, he will use off-ball cuts. He will read the defense, and that's where he will get his points. No, I don't think he'll overpower anyone with his strength or his athleticism.
Dylan Ababu,
Awi.
part 2. Ba? Si Amiel Asido.
Dylan
I think
Ababu, pwede.
I think it's very good that they got Asido. It makes losing Dongo not that much yung hurt, 'di ba? At least they were able to get somebody who fits the system of Pido Horencio, a wing player who can do everything also. A young wing player. Kasi si Leland Esto, sama si mentioned, is eligible for 2-3 seasons max. I think this guy showed a lot during the juniors division, and I'm excited to see. Kasi as I've mentioned during our previous episodes about UST, Pido Horencio loves wing players, and Amel Isido is that type of wing player. 6'3", long, who can shoot. But I agree with Gab. He'll probably not get a lot of playmaking opportunities this season. But I'm excited to see where he ends up in his career if Pido Horencio continues to coach UST. Kasi very promising ang wing players in his system if we look at history. Sam?
Amiel Asido, definitely a lock. First juniors MVP ng ano ba team niya? Perpetual Help.
Perpetual.
NCAA Juniors. Yeah, so first MVP ng Perpetual Help sa juniors. Another thing that I remember lang about Amiel Asido randomly. Mythical 5 kasi siya, diba? Obviously, he was the MVP along with his teammates. Tapos may teammate siya doon na parang rookie lang ata, si LeBron James Daep. He's like a 6'7" perpetual help player. Tapos 6'7" payat, long, lanky. Tapos pero natawa ako kasi LeBron James yung pangalan niya. Shout out nga pala sa kay Lord and kay Akio, friends from Lasal na mga nag-share din ng mga insider info about mga NCAA players. So shout out to them. Doon ko narinig si LeBron James Daep, by the way. Okay, moving on. Amiel Asido, NCAA Juniors MVP, definitely a lock for UST. Potentially the future of UST. Speaking of the future of UST, another guy that's super hyped for this coming season. We haven't seen from him or heard from him though. Zayn Mahmood. So, big guy, big man,
Lock.
Gab.
Lock na
Oh,
Lock na yan,
yan.
even if we
Lock na
haven't
yan.
seen him.
They're
Okay,
pretty
They probably
small,
paid-
so they probably paid a lot. Tama si Maui,
paid a
probably
lot.
paid a lot.
Diba? A lot of teams
Okay.
wanted to get this guy. So, lock this in.
Obviously, Gilas guy, Zayn Mahmood, so a big lock. One of the reasons why Eco Laure is a big question mark also for this team. Sorry, Gab, are you gonna say something?
No,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just saying he's gonna get minutes, and I don't think si
Yeah.
Ecolari was playing backup center no Phil Oil. I don't think he's gonna be the backup center once Zayn Mahmood yung comes to the lineup. So then Zayn Mahmood, lock it in.
Okay, big lock. Big lock. Uh, I think someone mentioned Ashen Andrews kanina. Let's talk about Ashen Andrews transferring from UP where he got limited minutes to UST. Is he a lock, a maybe, or was it a good decision for him to transfer from UP to UST? Let's start with you,
Yes.
Maui.
Yes, it was a good decision to transfer, di ba? Kasi if he stayed in UP, he will not make the lineup. In UST, I think he will make the lineup. I will cluster him with Jeremy Robinson, di ba? Kasi these two guys play similarly. They're very athletic, but still raw. I think these are the type of players also that thrive. KP Dorencho, di ba? Wing players who are very athletic, who know how to slash. They have to practice yung 3-point shot nila. I think that's something both of them have to work on. But these two guys, I will cluster them in kasi very similar how they play, very similar yung background nila that they had to transfer from two very big programs. Yeah, luck for Ashen Andrews and Jeremy Robinson.
Ako actually, it's a maybe for me for Jeremy Robinson and a lock for Ashen Andrews. Ang thing lang kay Jeremy Robinson, he plays as a wing, but he's so damn small. What is he? He's like less than 6 feet. Diba? He's just
Jeremy Robinson, akala ko parang 6'1", 6'2" yun.
bruh,
Maliit
bruh.
pala yun.
If you've seen him in person, he's pretty small. He is pretty small. Ashen Andrews, I think, is a lock. I think he made SJ Moore expendable. I've said this early in the preseason because Ashen Andrews has played better than SJ Moore, and they're very similar. I think that cost SJ Moore a ton of minutes and a ton of favor against Coach Pido and Coach Juno. Sige, isama na natin. So I agree with Maui. It's a lock for me for Ashen Andrews. It's a maybe for me for Jeremy Robinson. I do like his defensive tenacity. That was one thing I observed with him, si Jeremy Robinson. But yeah, the shooting, the playmaking, the offensive skill set is just not there for me. And if you're talking about athletic guys, Ashen Andrews is taller and he's longer and he can jump through the roof. So ako, it's a lock for Ashen Andrews. Sam.
Okay, it's a lock for me for Ashen Andrews, Jeremy Robinson. Actually, I had him as a maybe because admittedly, hindi ako masyado nakanood ng UST games din. But I was leaning towards having him as a lock just because he also transferred from LaSalle, as Maui mentioned, and I feel like UST has to play this guy. Or else, di ba? Parang
22 years old na rin.
ano yun, magta-transfer na naman siya. So, I'm kind of rooting for this guy to make it to the team. So, sige, let's put him as a maybe na. Balikan na lang natin siya mamaya. But, Andrews is a lock. Moving on, meron pa ba kayong locks sa list nyo that we haven't talked about? I'm sure.
I do.
Yeah.
So,
I do.
I do.
Si Ice
Ice
Danting.
Danting.
How can you forget about him, Sam?
Okay.
I think
Sure
he's gonna
luck.
start. I think he's gonna
probably
start.
gonna start.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you talk about guys who can shoot, I think this guy has a very sweet stroke and fits right in there along with Fortsy and Nick Cabanero. So I think he's a lock. Maui.
Yeah, I agree. Probably their best shooter. So I think si Ice Danting is definitely a lock. Ateneo, I don't know why they didn't like this guy, but UST will thrive into the Lorenzo system as long as he continues to shoot well.
Okay, moving on. Meron pa ba kayong locks or wala na?
I do. I do have
Gab.
one. We mentioned the guy who, if you want to give up fouls,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
A lock
Okay.
for me is si Brix Versosa.
Yep.
Listen, what is he?
Six,
6'8",
six,
six
eight,
eight,
six,
six nine,
nine.
6'9"?
Yeah.
Yeah, and what? He's
Comes
18.
from the UST Juniors program.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you're looking for a guy who, the Echo Lauder will just give up fouls, why not have a guy who has some length and who's actually a project who you can develop for the future? This, this is a no-brainer. There aren't many 6'8", 6'9" guys who can potentially grow taller as the years go on in the UAAP or in the Philippines for that matter. So put me in. Brix Versosa. Lock him in.
Obviously, very raw right now, but at 18 years old, diba, might as well develop a 6'8", 6'9" guy. Maui, anything you want to add?
Actually, yung measurement niya, I think sa top article on Google, 6'10" already. So Gab is right, maybe he's still growing. So definitely a lock, di ba? Where do we see Filipinos, local Filipinos who are 6'10" and above? Or 6'8" and above for that matter?
Okay. So, Brix Versosa, rookie coming from UST, is a lock. Gab, ilan na yung locks natin?
Let me count this. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 locks. We have 4 spots remaining.
Okay, 12 locks. Any other locks that you want to put in before we decide over the last few spots?
I
Wala
do
na.
have one. And
Okay.
this is a guy I think that more of a missing in action guy, but we were high, hindi man high, but this was a highly touted recruit from last season. Mark Liemit. Where is he?
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
do.
Wait. Sige. So Mark Lemit is a lock for you?
I think he is. I mean, he's from UST. Diba? He's from UST and he's he was their star player, has potential to be to be a wing player, although he played as a big man in high school. He showed that he can shoot. Whether he transitions, I'm I don't know yet. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do like this guy, but I'm wondering where the hell is he?
Okay. Sorry. Just to clarify, based on my count, I verified with Maui din sa chat just right now. 13 na tayo, Gab. So 13, we're looking at the last 3 players. Good question on Mark Lemit. We like this guy. I mean, he came from the juniors program, was a dominant star for the juniors team. Pero parang missing in action siya ngayon. So, I just wanted to clump in then other guys that were highly touted recruits from UST that are sort of missing in action now. Where are they now? We're not sure yet. We haven't heard much about them. Mark Lemit, June Melesio from Zobel, si Chase Lane, who was supposedly a one and done player recruited last year. And big question mark also on SJ Moore. We heard he was leaving and then he wasn't. So these guys were like highly touted recruits last season. Haven't heard much about them this season. Are you putting them in as locks? Maybe, sir. Na. So Mark Lemit is a lock for Gab. I like Mark Lemit also. I'll put him in as a lock. He played big nung juniors. Yung problem is he's very undersized pagdating dito sa senior. So I think yung transition nung first year niya was kind of hard for him. But I think he has the potential to transition. Hindi naman siya like mabigat or slow or anything like that. Maui, anything you wanna add? Or meron ka bang lock dito sa apat na to? So Mark Clement is a lock actually.
Yeah. Ako actually, I'd make the case. If you're talking about Mark Clement, I'd make the case for SJ Moore kahit underwhelming yung performance niya so far.
Okay.
Kasi it's a bit weird that we haven't actually heard or we haven't gotten the confirmation that he has indeed transferred back to the NCAA, di ba? Yung una, sabi nila he's transferring back and then binawi daw. So I think he might make the lineup just because we still haven't heard, we haven't gotten yung clarity on this matter. So yeah, definitely si SJ Moore, dun sa others, I think si Echo Laure will make the lineup. I have to make a case again for Laure just because they lack big men. I think they still lack big men, even if you slot in Bricks Versosa, di ba? There are a lot of teams in the UAP who have a ton of big man, di ba? If you play a team like LaSalle, you have to have a lot of big man, di ba? If one or two players get into foul trouble, then you need other people to be able to give up fouls, big man. That's the only reason why I think si Laure will still make it. From what I've heard kasi, si Versosa is very raw. Diba? But you have to put him in. Kasi he's a project. The best thing you can do right now is to put him in and continue to train him with an FSA. Yeah.
Okay, so Maui, are you locking in Echo Laure?
Yes, I'm changing my
Okay,
original
so
na
Sa
maybe to
lock na
lock.
siya.
he's now
Big
a lock. He's now a
baby.
lock.
Big baby Echo. Lock na. So we locked in Mark Lemit. So we have one more slot left. We have a few players left. So Jeremy Robinson, we talked about. So SJ Moore, Maui put us a lock. Gab, is he a lock for you? Is he a maybe? June Melesio, Andre Honrada, Jason Suba, Robert Castro. Am I missing someone else? I think yun na lang.
See,
So
Robert Castro is another guy who's very small. I don't know. He was a third string point guard for Infill Oil. I don't know whether Coach Pido has any sort of plans for this guy, but he hasn't played much. So sige, siguro si Jeremy Robinson na lang kasi uh he's actually playing for UST. He's actually there compared to SJ Moore, who news articles have said that he's transferring to the NCAA, but there are rumblings there that he's coming back again to UST. So, but I don't know. Si SJ Moore has been out of favor with Coach Pido and has been out of favor for me already. I haven't liked what I've seen from SJ Moore talaga.
Nabudol tayo lahat.
Oo, nabudol tayong lahat.
MVP ng ano eh.
Slam.
Maybe
Slam. Oh.
so. Yeah, I'll put in Jeremy Robinson. I mean, he's very similar to SJ Moore, just a bit smaller, but I don't think any of these guys are gonna be difference makers by any means anyway. Diba? So, yeah, put me in for Jeremy Robinson, yung lock him in.
Okay,
Ayun.
he's a lock. He's a lock. He's our 16th man player. So that's it for our UST team. Can you recap, Gab, yung players sa UST?
All right, so for our 16-man lineup for the UST Growling Tigers for season 87, it's Nick Cabanero, Christian Manaytay, Fortsy Paranada, who transferred from Ateneo, Cal Paranada, Leland Esto, Jello Crisostomo, Mix Pangilinan, Mari Tongkara, Amiel Asido, Zayn Mahmood, Ashen Andrews, Ice Danting, Bricks Versosa, Echo Laure, Jeremy Robinson, and Mark Lemet with an asterisk just because we don't know where the hell he is. Maybe someone can tell us.
Okay, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Stay tuned. We'll try to cover other teams for lock maybe or na. If you haven't heard yet, please check out the description box below. We are doing pre-orders for our Boleros shirt. So if you're interested to get one for the upcoming UAAP season, click the link below to sign up. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye. Ingat. Comment, subscribe. Bye-bye.